I have sat through hundreds of executive meetings, and this is what I've noticed. Analysts start presenting, and the executive is paying attention for maybe 90 seconds, and then you see their eyes start to glaze over. Sometimes they even physically do something else, and the analyst has completely lost them. And honestly, I don't blame the executive at all. Executives are short on time, and these analysts just aren't getting to the point quick enough. Instead, they are wasting critical time talking about the background of their analysis and the variables they excluded and their approach to finally arrive at the conclusion. But at that point, they have already lost that executive's attention. And what a shame, because that analysis was really good, but they just didn't present it well because they had prepared the presentation for their own perspective, not for the person whose decision they actually needed. And this isn't just about making some executive happy. This is about doing work that actually drives decisions. So here are the things we're going to cover in this video. The first, we're going to address what executives actually want to hear in the first 90 seconds. The second, we're going to talk about the BLUF framework. Bottom line, upfront, how to get to the point right away. And the third, I'm going to introduce you to a framework that you should use in all of your executive updates. So I want to start with a story from my own personal experience. I started my career in investment banking, where the very first thing I learned was to put the recommendation on the very first slide, not on slide 15, not after the methodology, and definitely not at the end. They're a busy executive. They have a company to run, other people looking for their decisions, their direction. They don't have 30 minutes to wait until you finally get to the point. They want the bottom line up front, and they want to know what you need from them, what decision, what action, and then they'll listen to your justification as to why. I remember early in my career when I first met with a senior director. I was nervous, anticipating that meeting. I spent all week preparing that slide deck. And I walked into that meeting ready to start from slide 1, and the executive didn't even open the deck. They just asked me, what is your recommendation? What should we do? I summarized what I had found, and that was it. They didn't even open the slides. They said, okay. And the meeting was over. I remember walking out of that meeting feeling confused. Did I just waste a bunch of time building these slides for nothing? Did that executive make the right call by just trusting me? Should they have challenged a bit more? Shouldn't I have told them my approach? But the reality was that that was a great meeting. They trusted what I had done. They saw that I had prepared. They just wanted to know what they needed to do about it. And if they doubted it, well, then I had those slides prepared and ready to demonstrate the answers. I wasn't unprepared. In fact, I was so prepared and so ready, and they trusted that they took my decision and ran with it. I'm going to teach you a very important phrase, which is BLUF. Bottom line up front. It actually comes from a military setting where in military stakes, it's obviously high pressure and they need to know upfront, what should we do? Now, a corporate environment is not quite military, but there's definitely pressure that you need to operate under. The instinct might be to start at the beginning, walk them through the background and your approach, and finally arrive at the conclusion. But in a high pressure environment, when decisions need to be made, the decision is what you start with, the bottom line upfront. And I'll show you an example in this simple sentence. Due to the global shift in commodity prices and supply chain delays, our Q2 expenses were 20% above target. Now, this sentence isn't terrible, but it could be much better by putting the bottom line upfront. So here's what that would look like. Expenses were 20% above target in Q2, driven by a global shift in commodity prices and supply chain delays. It's the same exact information, just in a different order. In the second version, where I showed the bottom line upfront, the executive sees what the problem is right in the beginning. They see expenses are up, and then you answer why. The first version tells them why before they know what they're dealing with. Another example would be in your slide title. You might normally see the slide title saying Q3 Customer Engagement Analysis. This tells me nothing about what this slide's purpose is. Instead, a better title would be Customer Engagement is up 12%. Driven by new user experience. Now you're not just telling them this is Q3 customer engagement data, you're telling them why this matters. What is unique about Q3 data? What is the insight that they should care about? You're putting the bottom line right there at the top of the slide up front. And executives love this. They are reading the title slide and then you're explaining why through graphs or visuals on the slide that they can easily follow. And this also ensures that you know what the purpose of your slide is. Which brings me to my next point, making sure you actually have a punchline. The bottom line upfront framework only works if you've actually gotten to the bottom line. A lot of data professionals do that analysis without finishing, without getting to their final recommendation. So here's the drill you're going to use. The question you're going to ask is, so what? Over and over and over again until you arrive at the recommendation for the executive. So here's an example. We see that website traffic increased 15% month over month. So what? So we look into that data and we see that revenue didn't actually decrease. Okay. So what is the recommendation? So what? So we look into the data and we see that conversion rate dropped. Okay, so more people were coming, but they weren't all booking with us. So there's a problem here. Okay, so what is that problem? So we look into the data further and we see that the issue is with international shipments. And we see that there is an extra step needed to make international shipments. So our final so what is we should look into removing that step because there's a lot of revenue on the table that we could be taking advantage of if those customers who are visiting could actually finish the process and check out. And that's our final so what. Now we have a recommendation that we can take to our executives. And even better, we can start with the bottom line up front, saying verification for international shipments is causing a delay in our revenue growth. That is the simplest answer. Now, as promised, I'm going to share with you a simple framework to make this very practical. Any meeting, any report, or any summary needs to answer these 3 questions. The first, what happened? The second, why did it happen? And the third, what should we do about it? So using that last example in this framework, we could say website traffic increased, but revenue did not. That was because conversion rate dropped for international shipments. We recommend removing that extra verification step to increase revenue going forward. We have what happened, why it happened, and our final recommendation. Notice what I did not include. I didn't include the methodology, the data sources, the variables I excluded. Those are all there. They're just in the appendix. They don't need to go up front with my recommendation and the so what. And when I teach this in workshops, I notice some people ask, what if executives ask about the methodology? And I always respond that that's a great outcome. You want them engaged, asking questions. You've gotten their attention. They're interested. And they're not challenging you. They're just asking for that approach to which you've done all the work. You've anticipated their questions, you have all of that analysis already done, and you can answer those specific questions they have. You don't have to go down every rabbit hole, every detail, and you might not have anticipated some questions, which is also okay. But you have simplified it for them and given them a recommendation based on your best interests. Now, I also want to acknowledge why this might feel uncomfortable at first. In school, we were taught to show all of our work, that our teacher didn't just want the answer, they wanted to see how you got there. But that's not how it works in the executive world. Executives want us to do the work, but they just want the bottom line. They want to know what decision they should make, and they want to have the work separate in case they have questions. I want to introduce you to one of my favorite quotes by Mark Twain. I didn't have enough time to write a short letter, so I wrote a long letter instead. It takes time to be brief. You've done all of that hard work of going through the analysis, thinking about the details, summarizing a recommendation, and now packaging it up for them, making it digestible, consumable for an executive audience. That is actually going the extra mile, not taking shortcuts. So before your next executive update, make sure to write down these 3 sentences. What happened? Why did it happen? And what should they do about it? I hope you found this video useful. And if you did, please give it a like. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on other videos like this one. And if you want to learn more about how I help data teams with executive communication, check out the link in the description below.